Shalom and good evening and a blessed 2019. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, U.S. National Security Adviser John Bolton threatens Jerusalem's enemies not to test Washington's commitment to Israel's security. Islamist Palestinians launch a rocket overnight from the Gaza Strip toward the southern communities of Israel. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reveals that security cooperation between Cairo and Jerusalem is the closest and most in-depth it had ever been. Top Washington officials have worked over the past several weeks to thwart an abrupt U.S. military pullout from Syria that after President Donald Trump announced in December his decision to withdraw the American forces that are operating in the war-torn country. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio, who sits on both the committees of Foreign Relations and Intelligence, revealed the decision to slow down the process of withdrawal to assure the protection of U.S. allies and partners that are expected to be impacted by the move.
We have been able to sort of get the pace of the retreat or withdrawal slowed, which is important. I think a precipitous withdrawal would have been catastrophic for various reasons that we can outline in a moment. A lot of attention has been paid to northeast Syria and our presence alongside the Turks, outside the Kurds, I apologize, but we also have a presence in southern Syria, which is largely an anti-Hezbollah presence. In essence, we have a base in which we have it's not an enormous number of U.S. personnel, but around it is sort of a security zone, and that's served not just to protect about 50,000 migrants that are living in that zone, but it has sort of made it difficult for Iran and their surrogate Hezbollah to operate right on the border with Israel. If the withdrawal includes that area as well, which I anticipate it does, it has other implications.
In efforts to assure Washington's regional allies of ongoing American support, U.S. National Security Adviser John Bolton embarked yesterday on a 4-day trip to Israel and Turkey to discuss the future implications of the anticipated American withdrawal. After first arriving in Jerusalem yesterday, Ambassador Bolton met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during which he underscored the U.S. commitment to Israel's security and its right to self-defense.
It's for the United States, a sovereign nation's ability to defend itself is the ultimate mark of sovereignty. And President Trump has said repeatedly that he backs Israel's right to self-defense. He says it proudly and unequivocally. I would just say to any nation, whether in this region or not in this region, that has any doubt about America's support for Israel's self-defense, they better think about it again.
In addition to Washington's resolve to assure the safety of its allies and partners in the Middle East, President Trump's National Security Advisor underscored the commitment of the U.S. administration to work with the leadership in Jerusalem to thwart Iran's ongoing efforts to acquire nuclear weapons.
We've got the continuing threat of Iran's quest for deliverable nuclear weapons, and despite getting out of the Iran nuclear deal, despite the sanctions, we have little doubt that Iran's leadership is still strategically committed to achieving deliverable nuclear weapons. The United States and Israel are strategically committed to making sure that doesn't happen.
In contrast to ongoing efforts by European and other international powers to preserve the nuclear agreement with Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserted once again that the decision by President Trump to pull away from the deal is respected by countries who sincerely care about curbing Tehran's aggressive behavior.
The President walked away from the dangerous Iran deal and reimposed sanctions. That's number one. That's important to America, to Israel, to the world. And everybody who wants to stop Iranian aggression respects that deeply.
The Israeli leader also took the opportunity to reiterate Jerusalem's resolve to protect its sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which is perceived by many among the international community as part of Syria.
The Golan Heights is tremendously important for our security, and I think that when you're there, you'll be able to understand perfectly why we'll never leave the Golan Heights and why it's important for that all countries recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights.
Meanwhile, in Iraq, Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi hinted at a bigger Iraqi military role in Syria once the U.S. military would withdraw from his country's war-torn neighbor. Speaking at a news conference in Baghdad after an Iraqi security delegation met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus, Abdul Mahdi voiced concerns about Islamic State activity that has emboldened in recent weeks by the U.S. decision to withdraw. The Prime Minister revealed that the Iraqi military sought to move beyond its current arrangement with Syria, under which it launches airstrikes against the Islamic State militants within Syrian territory.
الجانب الأمريكي ينسحب. هناك وضع مع قوى ميدانية سورية يتطلب العلاج، والحقيقة العراق هو أفضل طرف للتعامل مع هذه القوى الميدانية، وبالتالي التعاون بين العراق وسوريا ضروري، كما أهمية التعاون سواء مع قوى التحالف الدولي أو مع بقية القوى التي لها علاقة بالملف السوري.
While the Iraqi Prime Minister refrained from getting into more details, he underscored that all future decisions would be made in cooperation with the Syrian regime in Damascus and its international allies, namely Iran and Russia. Now back to Israel, where an explosive device that was attached to multiple balloons was identified by the Israeli Defense Forces flying from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory. After intercepting the airborne device, the IDF responded with an aerial assault targeting 2 Hamas military posts in the hostile Palestinian enclave. The IDF spokesperson's unit told TV7 in a written statement that it will continue to operate in order to protect Israeli civilians from acts of terror that emanate from the Gaza Strip. The statement further underscored that the IDF views the Hamas terror organization as accountable for all events transpiring in the Gaza Strip and from it, and will bear the consequences for its actions. Meanwhile, overnight, Islamist Palestinians launched a rocket from the Hamas-run territory towards the southern communities of Israel. Rocket alert sirens were sounded in the southern city of Ashkelon and the Chof Ashkelon Regional Council, after which an Iron Dome anti-rocket defense system successfully intercepted an airborne projectile. No injuries or damage were reported as a result of the intercepted rocket debris. Now, in other news, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi revealed in an interview to the CBS 60 Minutes program that security cooperation between Israel and Egypt was the closest and most in-depth it had ever been. President Sisi pointed to a fact in which, on occasion, the Egyptian Air Force had penetrated Israeli airspace to carry out actions in the Sinai Peninsula, an unprecedented revelation of the close ties between Cairo and Jerusalem. The Egyptian leader further underscored that security cooperation will continue to grow. While Israeli-Egyptian relations continue to tighten, however, Cairo's efforts to broker reconciliation among Palestinian factions has hit a new low. The Western-backed Palestinian Authority announced a decision by President Mahmoud Abbas to pull all of its employees from Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt, effectively closing the main exit point from the Palestinian enclave. The decision to withdraw came after months of Egyptian-led attempts to force the rival Palestinian factions, Fatah and Hamas, to negotiate on a viable solution to years of bloody rivalry in efforts to alleviate the humanitarian situation across the Gaza Strip. According to a source in Ramallah, the decision to withdraw from the Gaza Strip came in response to a series of operations by Hamas against the Palestinian Authority at the border crossings, which included the detaining of some of the Palestinian employees. It is important to know that unless Egypt agrees to alternative operators, the only border crossing out of the Hamas-run territory is expected to remain closed. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hessen, and I will see you again tomorrow at the same time.